Linking the dragon to the devil marks a shift in perceptions of the dragon. Who has the power to slay the devil?
When the knight went out, he was a Christian knight, and this was a very big deal. And the dragon was also being used as a biblical monster, and there are images in the Bible of the Leviathan and whatnot, and the dragon was Satan. So it would be that the good king is sending out a Christian knight to do battle with a satanic element and will destroy it. And in destroying this, you have an indication of the power of the king, the power of his warriors, and the power of his religion.
Which brings us back to St. George. He is more than a knight slaying a dragon. He is the ultimate Christian warrior defeating the devil. Once the connection is made between Satan and the dragon, other biblical stories come into play.
The devil was thought to be the snake in the Garden of Eden, and snakes and dragons seemed so related to each other that it didn't take much for when the church was looking for some sort of embodiment of evil to find a handy one in the dragon.
Church teachings fuel tales of dragons for the next few centuries. By the Elizabethan era, dragons are even included in books on natural history. The original books still exist. In Washington, D.C., the Folger Shakespeare Library preserves historic documents. The rarest are kept deep underground, in a vault that could secure any king's treasure.
Edward Topsell's History of Four-Footed Beasts was published in 1607, followed the next year with his History of Serpents. And these were, in a way, the first modern natural histories of animals. Topsell's book primarily does include real animals, but he includes the dragon and other creatures that we think of as mythical, and even alludes to the possibility of their having been seen in England and Scotland.
Topsell's book is a collection of all the information known at the time about every particular animal. His descriptions of dragons are quite extensive.
He describes dragons with scales, dragons with wings, dragons without wings, and some with neither wings nor feet, and says that they are distinguished from other serpents by having beards on their cheeks and some sort of appendage on their heads, and that is what distinguishes them from other serpents. And he talks about them as if he has actually seen them.
One of Topsell's contemporaries was William Shakespeare. As would be expected, the Folger Shakespeare Library contains an extraordinary collection of his first folios.
Topsell's books were published very near the end of Shakespeare's lifetime. I suspect that Shakespeare knew them. Shakespeare himself refers to dragons in a number of his plays, but not so much to real dragons as to attributes of dragons.
One of the most famous Shakespearean references to dragons occurs at the end of King Richard III.
At the end of that play, when King Richard, who is a tyrant, a villain, is about to face Henry, the Earl of Richmond, at the Battle of Bosworth Field, he calls on St. George to give him and his soldiers the fiery spleen of the dragon, the ferocity of a dragon. Shakespeare must surely have known that it was Henry, Earl of Richmond, who actually had the dragon as one of his standards or flags that his soldiers carried into battle. And this is partly about to his own Welsh ancestry. He adds the dragon to the royal arms of England so that you have the regal lion and the dragon supporting the royal arms of England. And the dragon is there up until the time of James I, when he replaces the dragon with a Scottish unicorn.
It would certainly seem that the residents of Elizabethan England believed in dragons, at least as creatures that once lived.
I think that it is quite likely that many of Shakespeare's contemporaries and Topsell's contemporaries believed that dragons once existed, but did not believe that they were still around.
The belief that dragons used to be real in a time not too long ago is common.
People often approach their myths in the same way that we do, and they believed that the great age when monsters like dragons roamed the earth had already passed. Very often, dragons were part of the past and not really encounterable in the present, with the exception that sometimes, maybe if you went far enough to the edges of the earth, you might still find some lingering.
That's just what people begin to do. Travel to the ends of the earth. The American continent is full of new opportunity and dragons. Waiting in the new world are the most lethal dragon encounters ever. Real people being killed by the thousands.